Hi guys, today I'm gonna review Warcross by Mary Lou. I received this book through Netgalley in exchange for an honest review, and this comes out September 12th. Warcross is the first book in a YA science fiction duology, and this is a kind of video game based book. I know a lot of people have compared it to Ready Player One, but I think that comparison is really just because of the video games. I don't really think that it's very similar to Ready Player One in any other way. I feel like Ready Player One is a lot more dystopian. I don't know, I mean, it does take place in the future and it has maybe some dystopian elements, but I feel like for the most part it's just really science fiction, because it just really kind of shows you how the world will kind of look in the future, and it's not so much about like the destruction of society, but just really about like technological advances in a few years' time. So the main character in this book is a hacker, and she has kind of focused on hacking this big game which is called Warcross, and there's these big tournaments I think every year, and you know, she kind of does something really crazy in one of the tournaments and hacks herself into the game, and instead of getting this like huge penalty, she is actually getting a job in this big company to help them with solving this other big hacker case. It's really cool. This kind of game that Mary Lou has created is really cool. You will both see the in-game stuff, but you will also see how this technology has really kind of affected society and the world. So that's where kind of a little bit of a dystopian element comes in, but it's not really, you know, you could also say it's utopian. Really depends on how you see it, and I think it also really depends on where the second book is going with that. So while the game itself is really in itself just this game, it has definitely affected everyday life, and it has affected different countries in different ways. So the main character travels to Tokyo in this novel, and there you can really see how everyday life has basically been 100% affected by this technology, and everybody kind of uses it, and it's really part of everyday life. Whereas in the US, a lot of people use it, but it's not that big of a part, and I'm guessing that, you know, in some other countries maybe it doesn't really have any effect on society at all, and I think that's definitely a really interesting aspect of the story. I absolutely love this book. I haven't really made any secret out of that for the past few months, because I have read it quite early. I was so excited that I got an arc of this that I just, you know, had to read it basically as soon as I got it. I have just been absolutely in love with this one. I am already highly anticipating the second book. So I definitely love the world. As I already said, you know, you have both in-game and real life, and how this technology affects this, and I just really enjoyed both aspects. I think that Mary Lou really was able to have a great balance between showing some in-game content but also showing like real life stuff. I think that, you know, there would have been too much of showing every single game that the main character plays or watches. I think there was just a really good balance with kind of making you understand how this game works and how some of the worlds look like, but also having enough real life included so that it's not only about this game. The concept of the game Warcross itself is really nothing new. It's definitely something that, you know, kind of already exists in our world, but you know, seeing this through a virtual reality lens kind of, and reading from the perspective of someone who experiences this in virtual reality was definitely super interesting. And I actually really liked that Mary Lou kind of went for a more basic concept for the game, you know, like having different classes and knowing what their kind of job is in the game. And if you know a little bit about gaming, you're gonna be in this really quick. And I think even if you don't know that much about gaming, it's gonna be really easy to understand, you know, the different people and their tasks in the game. And I just really like that she kind of went for a more basic concept, but then really explained the kind of different battlegrounds. So obviously, you know, since this is virtual reality, you could go for basically any battleground whatsoever, and I still feel like she overall kept this very simple and had a good way of describing the battleground that they were currently playing in, and then just really going into detail of what actually happens in the game and what the different positions do during the game. I just really think that it's not an easy job to kind of explain a game in a book, and I think she did it really well while focusing on some really good detailed things, but still going for an overall like basic concept, if you get what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying. I also just really loved a lot of the characters, and especially the main character Emika. She is really great. She is flawed and she makes a lot of mistakes, and she definitely does things where you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this? But it was just really enjoyable to read from her perspective. I think that, you know, the story worked really well from her perspective, and she's just someone that is just a lot of fun to read about. There is a romantic storyline in this book, and I have to say that I really enjoyed it. I am not one to not enjoy romance. For the most part, I am really like into romances, but Warcross hit me pretty hard, and I really didn't expect it to be so invested in this romantic storyline. But I think that Emika's love interest is also a really interesting character. Their feelings for each other do develop quite quickly, but it's not really insta love. It's just kind of like, I think they are just interested in each other so quickly because they are very different but have a lot of similarities. You kind of just feel their attraction to each other immediately, and it was kind of interesting to see how these feelings for each other developed. Also, the way the story ended. I don't want to spoil things, but I think that the relationship that they kind of had is also still very healthy and good. Nobody loses their mind and is so in love that they can't think straight anymore. That's all I'm gonna say. As far as the general plot goes, I think it was all really well done and enjoyable. I think it's definitely a very fast-paced novel. There are definitely things that you will be expecting and some things that won't really surprise you, but I had other things where I did expect them, and then still when they happened, they were written in such a way that I still kind of gasped, and I was like, what just happened? So I don't know, I think that's a sign of really good writing, if you expect something and then it's still somehow able to surprise you or make you feel shocked in a way. I don't even know how to describe it, but there were just a few moments where I was like, okay, this happened, but I'm still like kind of mind blown, and that's really cool. So yeah, as you can tell, I was absolutely intrigued. I loved this book. I think the world building is amazing, the plot is really cool, the characters are just so great and really realistic, and yeah, I would absolutely highly 100% recommend this book. I am in love with it. If you have already read it, let me know in the comments down below, or if you're planning on reading it, also let me know. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I guess I'll see you soon. Bye!